Hello, Studio Art. So the next step on our watercolor process is just combining the techniques that you practiced over here with Mr. McCormick, and you learned about in like doing each one, and we're just going to put them all together in one composition. That's why we left this right-hand side of your piece of paper empty. If you would want to go ahead and either you can measure out a 5 by 5 square with a ruler. You guys should have rulers in your kits. You can just measure 5 inches across here, 5 inches up like that, or if you prefer, you can just grab your watercolor sheet. So that white piece of paper, that white square inside of your art kit is roughly the size that you need. You can put that down on your sketchbook page and just trace. And this is not our final project. This is just an exercise that we do for the rest of this week to get more comfortable with watercolor and how it's going to work on our sketchbook pages, because all of ours are going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to do this a little bit sped up for you, but basically I'm going to be outlining some circles. You can choose whatever kind of geometric shape you want, squares, triangles. I want to be able to trace, so I had the most circles available to me. I just chose 3 different sizes caps, and I'm going to lay those in different places on my composition. I'm going to trace them. And I want to make sure that they're overlapping. That's the biggest thing. So there's the corner of my one. I'm drawing a little bit hard so that you can see, but please feel free to draw a lot lighter than I am. You can have every single circle touch. You can have just a couple, but really that overlapping is going to give us the effect that we're going for. So now that I'm done tracing all my circles and I have the composition that I want, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to make sure that I have enough geometric shapes, either circles, squares, or triangles, to incorporate each technique. So I'm going to like choose a technique. I'm going to put it inside of that circle. You see me doing that later, but I just want to make sure that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 techniques over here. I want to make sure I have at least 5 geometric shapes. I've had a lot more than 5 because I think it makes a nice composition. But you want to make sure that you have at least 5 overlapping as well. Then you can get started placing in your techniques. I'm going to start on the wet on dry technique because that's kind of the first one that I want to place in. So that's right here. And I'm going to just choose, let's say, wet on dry in this circle. I'm going to put WOD here. I'm going to choose one more wet on dry here in this big one. Then I'm going to say, I would like you to label them. I think it's going to make it a lot clearer so you're not confused on which circle's what. So I'm going to put wet on wet in this one. That was this over here. Then lifting, I'm going to put in this big circle one because I need enough room to be able to dab it away with a paper towel. So there's lift. Feathering, another big one because I think feathering looks nicer when you can see the colors kind of combine. So feather. And then glaze is my last one, which is overlapping, which is actually what all these geometric shapes are doing. Once I get my techniques all in here, technically it's glazing, right? Because those are 2 colors on top of each other, which is exactly what glazing is. But nonetheless, I want to make sure I want to give it its own circle. So I might combine 2 colors in there on top of each other. And then let's do glaze here. And then let's do feathering here. Now I'm just repeating because I want to fill in all my circles. I want to do lifting. Actually, no, let's do wet on dry on this one. Another one right next to each other, that's fine. And then glazing, no, change my mind. Do lifting in here. Just gonna put lift. So now that I have them all labeled, I have all my circles done. I'm gonna go in and erase all of that. I just did it. You don't want to be able to see your pencil lines. It just kind of makes it a little bit look sloppy. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase those and get started to paint. So now that I am done painting each circle, which I had to allow for quite a bit of dry time between each layer, but once you're finished, just go ahead and make sure that you like where all of your geometric shapes are. You can tell throughout the time lapse that I just showed you that I definitely changed, I added some more, and I changed a technique or two to just like spread out the textures and stuff, like where the lifting was, where the feathering was. You can feel free to do that as long as you still represent each technique that's over here on the left at least once inside of there, and that you have overlapping circles. Also, I tried to, you can notice here, I tried to spread out my color choices, making sure there's warm and cool colors kind of all spread out. If you don't know what warm and cool colors are, we cover that later, but a brief overview: cool greens and blues, warms, reds, oranges, and yellows. So I just try to spread those equally around so that way your eye is kind of moving all the way across to your little square that you've done.